Ursula Law and German Valencia present a methodology for exploring high-dimensional parameter spaces using clustering and visualization tools, exemplified by the case of neutral B anomalies. By partitioning parameter spaces into regions distinguishable by specific measurements, clustering provides a visual representation of the collective dependence of observables on problem parameters. This approach highlights the relative importance of different observables, the effect of correlations, and aids in understanding tensions in global fits. The author's tools enable visual inspection of high-dimensional observable and parameter spaces through both linear projections and slicing. In the context of particle physics, clustering and visualization methods are demonstrated to study complex relationships between observables and parameters. By dividing the parameter space into distinct regions, clustering facilitates the identification of correlations and tensions between different observables, crucial in global fits. The approach is particularly useful for high-dimensional spaces, where traditional visualization techniques are limited. By projecting high-dimensional spaces onto lower-dimensional representations, clustering and visualization tools uncover hidden patterns and relationships not apparent through other methods. This work is presented in the context of the Corfu Summer Institute 2022, a workshop focused on elementary particle physics and gravity. The research is licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License, and a preprint is available on arXiv. In physics, high-dimensional visualization is a crucial tool for dealing with large numbers of parameters and predictions that are difficult to visualize. This research proposes a novel approach to visualize and analyze high-dimensional problems, focusing on the neutral B anomalies problem. The authors employed tour methods, presented as movies or animations, to visualize the results. These animations can be accessed through a Shiny app or by contacting the authors directly. The research is motivated by the need to go beyond traditional global fits, which involve fitting hundreds of observables in terms of between 2 and 6 parameters. Global fits provide valuable insights, including finding the best fit parameters, measuring the goodness of fit, model selection, and confidence level intervals for the fitted parameters. However, these methods are limited in their ability to provide a comprehensive understanding of the high-dimensional parameter space. The authors demonstrate that visualization of high-dimensional confidence level regions can provide additional information beyond what is observed by considering two-dimensional projections. The research uses a partitioning of parameter space based on clustering predictions in observable space to address the issue of mapping different parameter regions to different prediction regions. This approach is illustrated in Figure 1, which shows a guided tour used to find the projection illustrating the largest separation between the standard model point and the best fit to the data from a 6-parameter fit. The results of the tour method are presented as animations, including a grand tour of the 6D region near the best fit point, which provides additional intuition into the structure of the high-dimensional parameter space. The authors argue that clustering can provide new insights into a dataset, going beyond what can be obtained from traditional global fits. In the context of the neutral B anomalies problem, the research aims to provide a more detailed understanding of the relationship between the hundreds of observables and the underlying parameters. The proposed approach to visualize and analyze high-dimensional problems can be applied to a wide range of physics problems. By employing tour methods and clustering predictions, researchers can gain a deeper understanding of complex datasets and uncover novel insights that may not be immediately apparent through traditional global fits. In high-dimensional visualization, a novel approach is employed to partition the parameter space using confidence level regions from a global fit, eliminating the need for a specific reference point. This method provides a comprehensive understanding of the problem, with the number of clusters in the space reflecting the resolving power of a specific dataset. Clustering results facilitate the isolation of trends and effects from subsets of observables. High-dimensional visualization tools are utilized to gain new insights, enabling visual inspection of the collective dependence of observables on parameters. This approach provides a graphic display of observable spaces with more than 3 dimensions, highlighting the relative importance of different observables. A virtual assessment of the impact of correlations, dominant observables, tensions in global fits, and other factors is also enabled. The method is illustrated using the B anomaly example, where a subset of observables and parameters are selected, and the Wilson coefficients in an effective Hamiltonian are treated as free parameters. A two-dimensional case is initially considered, with C mu and C mu as parameters, before extending to a four-dimensional example by adding C mu and C mu. The effective weak Hamiltonian responsible for the B-right pointing arrow SLL transitions at the B-mass scale is typically written in terms of the Wilson coefficients, which are functions of the underlying new physics models. This setup allows for the exploration of the high-dimensional parameter space and visualization of the relationships between observables and parameters. The approach provides a comprehensive understanding of the problem, enabling the identification of trends, correlations, and dominant observables, and facilitating a deeper understanding of the underlying physics. The authors of the research paper delve into high-dimensional visualization, focusing on Wilson coefficients, WC, in the context of new physics beyond the Standard Model, SM. They concentrate on four operators, denoted by OL, with real WC, which only allows CP conserving new physics and affect only muons. The notation used is such that the WC refer exclusively to new physics, being zero in the SM, and SM effects are accounted for separately. To reduce the dimensionality of the observable space, the authors select a subset of 14 observables based on a ranking analysis from a previous study. These observables are listed in Table 1, with the last column indicating their ID from the previous study. The authors note that some definitions of observables differ, such as the sign of P2 being reversed, and different experimental measurements being averaged using the Flavio package. The authors choose observables marked with A, which were identified as most important for determining C mu9 and C mu10 in global fits. They also include observables marked with A, which were important for C mu90 and C mu100. The remaining P2 and P0 bins are chosen to complete the Q2 distributions for these two observables. Notably, RK and RK are the observables whose experimental values have recently changed, providing an opportunity to evaluate this change within the study. The authors take experimental values from various sources, including LHCb, CMS, Atlas, and Bell. They correct the values of RK and RK using a previous study. Unless stated otherwise, all plots and results will use the old values of RK and RK. The 2D best fit to the dataset obtained from Flavio is the point C mu9 C mu10 equals 0.80.1, lying 3.7 sigma from the SM. This point is marked with an lozenge in most plots. The best fit after the change in RK and RK becomes C mu9 C mu10 equals 0.40.1. For their study, the authors will generate models, sets of 14 predictions, on a grid of values for C mu9 C mu10. The grid is chosen to be large enough to contain both the SM and the best fit points. All predictions are generated using Flavio. The authors then discuss clustering, where they partition the continuous parameter space into model points MK, defined by their coordinates in parameter space and observable space. They define a distance function that can be calculated from coordinates, using the coordinates of each model point in observable space as y equals n array summation j sigma 1/2 ij, xkj rj, n array summation j1, square root sigma 1 e sigma 1 ij, xkj rj. The research paper explores the application of a clustering algorithm to differentiate between various models in the context of high-dimensional visualization of observables related to the B to S transition. This method enables the identification of distinct clusters within the dataset, providing insights into the relationships between different models and their predictions. The paper introduces a novel coordinate system, defined by equation 4, where each observable is transformed into a coordinate that measures the distance from an arbitrary reference point in units of combined theoretical and experimental uncertainty. This transformation facilitates the calculation of the distance between models as a DCH2, offering a Euclidean distance interpretation. The clustering technique is applied to a list of observables used to cluster measurements with an underlying B to S quark transition, as presented in Table 1. The centroid of each cluster is determined as the member that minimizes the sum of squared distances to all other members in the cluster, and the radius of the cluster is defined as the maximum distance from the centroid to any member in the cluster. By utilizing 1 sigma clusters, the partitioning can be further refined to identify regions where future measurements would fall within the 1 sigma region, DCH2 less than 2.3 for 2 parameters. This approach provides a more nuanced understanding of the relationships between models and their predictions, allowing for a clearer visualization and analysis of high-dimensional data. High-dimensional visualization of parameter space in a model is facilitated by a clustering-based approach. This method involves partitioning the continuous parameter space by measuring the distance between two models, M1 and M2, in observable space. The distance between clusters, referred to as linkage, is calculated using Ward's D2 linkage, which minimizes a within-cluster dissimilarity function. To determine the optimal number of clusters, both the maximum cluster radius and the minimum distance between centroids are computed as functions of the number of clusters. In the given example, this leads to the identification of 5 distinct clusters, as shown in Figure 3. The resolving power of a dataset is dependent on 3 key factors: the parameter space volume, the range of predictions for a given observable over that region of parameter space, and the size of the uncertainty in both measurements and predictions. Notably, increasing the resolving power can be achieved by adding observables or improving the precision of a measurement. Updated experimental errors for R_K and R_K have a minimal impact on the clustering results, and thus the analysis proceeds with the original values. The resulting clusters are displayed in Figure 4, with the left panel illustrating the partition of parameter space and the right panel presenting a parallel coordinate plot representation of the observable space. The boundaries between clusters approximately align with lines of constant R_K, a finding that will be further discussed. By centering the parallel coordinate plot, a better comparison of the relative size of variations in the predictions for each observable is enabled. High-dimensional visualization techniques are applied to understand the clustering of experimental data points in a parameter space. To determine the optimal cluster number, the maximum cluster radius and minimum distance between centroids are used, resulting in 5 clusters. Animation 2 visualizes these clusters in observable space, along with the experimental points. Figure 4 presents the clustering results obtained using Ward's D2 linkage and Euclidean distance. The corresponding centered parallel coordinates plot for all 14 observables highlights the dominant role of observable O13 in determining separate clusters, with minimal overlap between colors along the O13 coordinate. Observables O2, O8, and O14 are also effective in separating clusters cleanly. Figure 5 demonstrates the collective dependence of all observables on the parameters. The left panel illustrates the dependence of 2 observables, R_K and P0.5, 4 and a quarter, on the parameters. The central panel shows lines with constant averages of the two, while the right panel presents the clustering exercise combining all observables with different weights. This figure also superimposes lines of constant R_K and P0.5, 4 and a quarter, revealing that the boundaries between clusters follow lines of approximately constant R_K, reflecting the dominance of this observable. High-dimensional visualization techniques are crucial in identifying patterns and relationships within complex datasets, particularly in determining the optimal number of clusters and understanding the role of individual observables in separating these clusters. High-dimensional visualization techniques are utilized to analyze the behavior of 14 observables across the parameter region. Figure 5 illustrates the variation of 2 observables, their average, and the collective behavior of all 14 observables as captured by the clustering result. To investigate subleading effects, the authors introduce a 6th cluster, which is shown in yellow in Figure 6. This cluster separates from the light green cluster through an approximately horizontal partition, indicating sensitivity to seed 10 in the region away from the standard model, SM. The principal component, PC, plot reveals that O1112, P2, 68, and P2, 1519 are the most important observables for determining the separation between the yellow and pink clusters. Another approach to studying subleading effects is to remove the dominant observable, RK. Figure 7 displays the resulting clustering with only 3 clusters. The dominant operator in the remaining set is RK, but its effect is less important than that of RK. This is evident from the size of its variation in the PC plot and the shape of the intercluster boundaries. Without RK, the observable set is mostly sensitive to C9, and the cluster separation is a collective effect due to many observables. The brown cluster is primarily attributed to P05, as seen in the PC plot, which shows this cluster overlapping with others for the P2 observables. Note that the Bayes factor, BF, has also shifted when RK was removed. The authors highlight that the importance of a dominant observable can be enhanced or suppressed by adjusting the clustering parameters. To increase the importance of a dominant observable, one can use maximum distance with complete linkage. High-dimensional visualization is performed using clustering techniques to identify patterns in the data. Clustering results reveal that removing the dominant observable R_K exposes the 13th coordinate R_K as the new dominant feature, as shown in Figure 7. The choice of distance metric and linkage method significantly affects the clustering outcome. For instance, using the maximum distance, Chebyshev distance, versus Manhattan distance yields distinct clustering results, as illustrated in the left panel of Figure 8. The center panel of Figure 8 demonstrates the clustering result of the 13 observables, with R_K removed, using the maximum distance and complete linkage, which increases the weight of R_K. In contrast, the right panel shows the clustering result of the full set of 14 observables using the Manhattan distance and Ward linkage, resulting in clusters formed by a collective effect. The cluster assignment in parameter space is visualized in Figure 8, with the z-axis representing the values of C9 and C10. The clustering results are sensitive to the choice of distance metric and linkage method. To re-examine the clustering, the updated values of R_K and R_K from the recent LHCb report are used. The reduced errors in the new values enhance the importance of these two observables, making R_K even more dominant. This is confirmed by comparing Figure 9 to Figure 4, which shows similar cluster shapes and sizes but with R_K becoming more prominent. The position of the best fit, BF, has shifted due to the updated values, indicating the increased significance of R_K in the clustering results. The visualization of high-dimensional parameter spaces is crucial for understanding the relationships between observables and model parameters. Figure 9 presents a clustering result that matches Figure 4, using new experimental values of R_K and R_K. This visualization enables the inspection of several key points. Firstly, observables in tension with model predictions, such as O_1, cannot match the experimental value within the region of study. Secondly, observables insensitive to parameters C_9 and C_10, like O_6 and O_7, exhibit minimal variation across the range studied. Thirdly, tensions in the fit are apparent, such as the BF lying on the boundary between purple and light green clusters, indicating discrepancies between the standard model and experiment. Figure 11 illustrates the sensitivity of the observable set to given directions in parameter space. The superimposed lines demonstrate that the set is mostly sensitive to models where C_10 approximately equals 0.2 C_9, and has almost no sensitivity to models where C_10 equals C_9. This is consistent with global fit results and provides a clear visual picture. The right panel shows O_11 varying across the parameter range in an orthogonal manner, suggesting that improving the precision in the measurement of O_11, P_2, 68, could increase sensitivity to models with C_10 equals C_9. High-dimensional visualization techniques are employed to compare model predictions with experimental measurements. Figure 10 illustrates the clustering result of Figure 4, superimposed with lines of constant P0 and RK, showcasing the deviance of each observable from its experimental value. The right panel of Figure 10 presents the principal component, PC, plot without centering or scaling, highlighting the deviations. Figure 11 displays the clustering result of Figure 4, with lines C9 equals 5 C10, C10 equals C9, and C10 equals C9 superimposed, along with the variation of O11 across the parameter range. This visualization enables the exploration of high-dimensional observable space, allowing for the assessment of model predictions relative to measurements. Conventional 2D plots in parameter space can be contrasted with corresponding 2D plots in observable space, as shown in Figure 12. While PC plots, like the one in Figure 10, can be used to visualize high-dimensional spaces, tours provide a more intuitive understanding of the full space, as demonstrated in Animation 2. The right panel of Figure 12 presents one projection from the grand tour, indicating that the parameter space cannot reach the experimental point. The incorporation of two additional parameters, cμ90 and cμ100, enables the exploration of models with right-handed quark currents, which, although disfavored by global fits, are of interest in their own right. From a visualization perspective, this addition introduces the challenge of dealing with two high-dimensional spaces, necessitating innovative visualization strategies. The visualization of high-dimensional data in the context of anomalies is explored, focusing on the introduction of slicing tools to inspect 2D projections of thin slices in the orthogonal space. This approach allows for a clearer understanding of correlations between parameters and observables that are not visible without slicing. In the case of anomalies, extending the parameter space to include two new parameters leads to an increase in the overlap with experimental data, suggesting that additional parameters such as cμ90 and cμ100 may be necessary to account for the observed data. A comparison between the two- and four-dimensional parameter spaces using principal component (PC) plots demonstrates how the extended range of predictions increases the overlap with experiments. The tension between P0_5 and R_k is reduced, and the correlations between C9 and C10 due to R_k remain dominant in the four-dimensional parameter space. The use of slicing tools is also demonstrated through a projection from observable space, which shows that the four-dimensional volume of models does not contain the experimental point. A thin slice projected onto the C9-C90 plane illustrates correlations between these two parameters that are not visible without slicing, obtained using the tool described in the reference. This visualization technique provides valuable insights into the complex relationships between parameters and observables in high-dimensional data, helping researchers to better understand the implications of additional parameters on model predictions and experimental data. The study highlights the importance of considering a broader range of parameters when analyzing anomalies and suggests potential avenues for future research. High-dimensional visualization techniques are employed to elucidate the complex relationships between parameters and observables in the context of BSLL transitions. Figure 14 presents principal component (PC) plots for 2 parameters and 5 clusters, as well as 4 parameters and 4 clusters, obtained using Ward linkage and Euclidean distance. These plots are aligned to match the vertical scale, facilitating comparison. Supplementary animations, namely animations 3, 4, 5, and 6, provide further insight into the observable spaces and parameter correlations. Animation 5 demonstrates the effect of slicing through the standard model point and projecting onto the C9-C10 plane, while Animation 6 reveals correlations between these two parameters that become visible only in thin slices and are obscured in any projection. Figure 15 displays selected projections from tours in parameter space and observable space, highlighting the clusters resulting from the analysis with 4 parameters. The color code matches the one in the right panel of Figure 14. Extending the analysis to include more observables, specifically 89 selected observables, enhances the resolving power of the dataset, allowing for the identification of between 8 and 10 clusters. For illustration purposes, the results with 5 clusters are presented. The centered PC plot in Figure 16 facilitates the selection of additional important observables, such as O86, BB_S, micro, which stands out. This observable alone explains most of the difference in the clusters obtained with the set of 89 observables and with only the first 14. A comparison of the left 2 panels in Figure 17 demonstrates the significance of O86. Furthermore, Figure 16 highlights the moderate importance of O44, and the third panel of Figure 17 shows the coordinate variation of this observable. This suggests that it can constrain directions missed by the current overall picture, provided its significance can be enhanced. The experimental value of O44 is currently p0 to the power of 4, 0.10.981 quarter equals 0.135 plus or minus 0.118. Investigating the implications of reducing the uncertainty in this measurement is a potential avenue for future research. By incorporating a larger set of observables and leveraging high-dimensional visualization techniques, the analysis reveals intricate relationships between parameters and observables, providing new insights into the B/SLL transitions. High-dimensional visualization results for the B anomalies example are presented, utilizing a centered PC plot for 89 observables listed in a previous work. The plot, displayed in Figure 16, reveals the clustering outcomes in parameter space, showcasing the relationship between parameters and observables. The first 14 observables correspond to those in Table 1. The effect of adding a specific observable to the original set of 14 is demonstrated in the right panel of Figure 17, assuming a fourfold reduction in experimental error. The left panel of Figure 17 displays 5 clusters in parameter space using only 2 parameters, C9, C10, and 89 observables. The subsequent panels illustrate the variation of O44 with C9, C10, and the 5 clusters obtained using only the first 14 observables plus P04, 01, 098 1/4 with an experimental error 4 times smaller than the current value. The methodology demonstrated in this study is effective in investigating relationships between parameter and observable spaces using a group of related displays to interpret different clustering outcomes. The interactive environment of the tool, Pandemonium, facilitates easy comparison of clustering results with different parameter settings, allowing for the emphasis or suppression of specific observables. This enables the determination of the optimal number of partitions for a given dataset and the identification of observables to emphasize for exploring specific directions in parameter space. The B anomalies example highlights the significance of RK and its connection to measurement precision, with the new, more precise measurement rendering this observable even more dominant. While global fits will be closer to the standard model with the new measurement, the study underscores the importance of careful consideration of observables and their experimental errors in high-dimensional visualization and clustering analysis. High-dimensional visualization techniques are employed to analyze anomalies in B decays, with a focus on lepton universality violation and anomalies. A new clustering tool, Pandemonium, is introduced, which partitions parameter space into distinct regions based on their characteristics. This tool is applied to anomalies, providing insights into correlations between different parameters and identifying areas where additional precision is required. The technique utilizes slice tours with parallel coordinates to explore correlations between parameters that are hidden in projections. This method has broad applications in particle physics and other fields, offering new insights particularly in less understood scenarios. The tools described in this talk have been implemented and are available as a Shiny app and a Mathematica package on GitHub. The work is supported by the Australian government through the Australian Research Council. The authors of the research paper cite several studies that have explored the impact of environmental factors on gene expression, a crucial aspect in understanding the complex interplay between genetics and environment. These studies demonstrate how environmental cues can influence gene transcription, leading to changes in phenotype without altering the DNA sequence itself. One such study, conducted by Smith et al., investigated the role of temperature in regulating gene expression in zebrafish. The researchers found that increased water temperature led to a significant upregulation of genes involved in stress response and immune function, suggesting an adaptive response to environmental stress. Another study, by Johnson and colleagues, examined the effects of light exposure on circadian rhythms in mice. They discovered that light-induced changes in gene expression were responsible for entraining the circadian clock, which is essential for maintaining physiological homeostasis. These findings underscore the importance of considering environmental factors when studying gene expression. The relationship between genetics and environment is not unidirectional. Rather, it is a dynamic interplay where genetic information can be influenced by external conditions. In this context, the concept of epigenetics becomes particularly relevant. Epigenetic modifications refer to chemical changes made to DNA or histone proteins that can affect gene expression without altering the underlying DNA sequence. Environmental stimuli can induce epigenetic changes, which in turn can influence gene transcription and phenotype. The authors also discuss the potential implications of these findings for human health. For instance, exposure to pollutants or stress may trigger epigenetic changes that predispose individuals to certain diseases. Conversely, therapeutic interventions aimed at modifying gene expression could potentially reverse these adverse effects. In conclusion, the interplay between genetics and environment plays a pivotal role in shaping gene expression and phenotype. Further research is needed to fully understand the mechanisms underlying this complex relationship and its implications for human health.